Hello. Today we have gathered a group of lived experience experts on human trafficking to present an agenda that we have been sharing with local politicians, dignitaries, and LAPD on the topic of restorative justice. To get started, I'd like to start with brief introductions of the survivors on our panel. Let's start with myself. My name is Helen Stiver, and I am a survivor of domestic human trafficking, sex trafficking here in the United States, starting in California and then traveling across the country. Now, as a survivor expert, I do lead trainings, participate in panels, and work within the anti-human trafficking sector full-time, sharing my expertise and knowledge. We also have on our panel today, Tika Thornton. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Helen. Hi, everyone. I'm Tika Thornton. I am a C-sex survivor, which is a commercially sexually exploited child. And I have been in the anti-trafficking movement for over 10 years. The bulk of my work has been working with an organization called Journey Out and in crisis response in LA County. And where I worked with law enforcement very closely, and most of the work that I have been doing in the anti-trafficking movement has been advocacy, mentorship, direct services, facilitating groups, workshops, and trainings. And my work has also been in awareness, prevention, as well as intervention.
Thank you. And next, we will hear from Raven. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Raven McDowell. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I do a lot of advocating for human trafficking. I was affected. I was a survivor, victim of child sex trafficking, and that's about me.
Thank you, Raven. And next we have Corina Hernandez.
Hello, I am Karina Hernandez, and I am a lived experience expert. I currently reside in Riverside, California, and I am part of the Riverside County Task Force, and I have been working in the anti-trafficking field for at least 12 years now. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And Professor Stephanie Richard.
Hi, I'm Professor Stephanie Richard, and I'm the director of the Sunita Jain Anti-Trafficking Initiative at Loyola Law School. I've worked on human trafficking issues in LA County for the last 20 years, and I am here to support the voices of lived experts as I'm not a lived expert myself.
And last, we have Paloma Bustos.
Hello, my name is Paloma Bustos, and I'm a policy associate with the Sunita Jain Anti-Trafficking Initiative. Through SJ, I've actually had the privilege on working on priorities to increase access to benefits for survivors of human trafficking. I've also had the privilege to work with the lived experience experts that are here on this call on implementing our restorative justice approach in cases involving human trafficking. Before joining SJI, I had nearly 15 years of experience working directly with crime victims, including survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and more recently, human trafficking. And I'm here because over the years, I've witnessed many survivors being re-traumatized by the criminal justice system, the child welfare systems, and other systems that are really meant to protect them, but instead they feel re-traumatized by their experience as they're navigating those systems. And so I'm happy to be here and joined by the lived experience on our panel today, or on our video today.
Thank you, everyone, for that brief introduction. Just to give everyone a perspective of our combined experience working with various law enforcement agencies, we're going to talk a little bit now about the different work that we do individually with the various task forces here in Southern California. I myself am very active in Orange County Task Force, which includes working with law enforcement, various nonprofit organizations, and also some local community representatives. I believe Karina has some expertise or some familiarity working with a Riverside Task Force. Would you like to share that with us?
Yes, thank you so much. I currently have been working with the Riverside County Task Force for a year now, and I am just honored by the way they have cared about survivors' voices there. And they have always constantly asked me, what do I think about different views? And they've allowed me, even on operations, to get a separate room where when the girl comes, I'm able to just go to that separate room and just try to build that relationship. Whereas if that wasn't the case, oftentimes they don't really want to talk to law enforcement. And so I just am very thankful that Riverside County, they do care about hearing the voices of survivors, and they're very trauma informed. So it's definitely been an honor working with them.
Thank you. And Tika, would you share something about your own work and experience with the LA Task Force?
Yes, I like to echo the same sentiment for Los Angeles County Task Force that Karina has for her task force. And I have also been in the same situations that Karina has experienced, far as working with law enforcement, with survivors, and assisting with interviews to see if they are a victim or if they are engaging of their own volition. I also am very proud to have been able to bridge in the gaps between the city attorney's office, law enforcement, service providers, and survivors. Being a survivor myself, as a civilian and as a survivor, as a Black woman, there's also have been a little bit of strain in all of those communities and identities with law enforcement, but I am very proud that they have given me a chance and an opportunity to assist them in having harm reduction practices in the things that, in the sweeps that they do, and making it more of a wellness check than a punishment, if you will. And I had been a part of the LA Task Force, I want to say, since 2016. And I have been on the core team of the Long Beach Task Force since 2014. And it has been great to see community service providers and law enforcement, as well as, the judicial system, kind of all get together and create change, and also listen to what the community and the survivors and, all the other sectors need in order to be a cohesive unit in fighting human trafficking.
Thank you for sharing those different perspectives. And in the light of you speaking about change and how change comes about, this is one reason why we're here today, because we're interested in discussing the concept of restorative justice and what that application to human trafficking cases might look like. And while many people are hesitant to consider alternatives to incarceration for serious crimes like human trafficking, we as survivors have come together to support this approach based on our own personal experiences and also those of other survivors that we know. we understand that the current system is not effective. Speaking from my own personal experience, where I was trafficked for over 8 years, and this was approximately 30 plus years ago here in California, the same we're facing the same problems in the same locations that we did so many years ago. And officially, we've been tackling this problem since 2000. Yet, year after year, there continues to be an increase in those that are being exploited. So, this is one reason why we want to present a different form of justice. I believe Tika has some insight on this topic as well.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Helen. So, the program that we are looking to start is, more trauma informed, where will prioritize the survivors' voices and their choices. And the main thing that we want to do is we want to empower them, and we want them to create their own narratives and, kind of create their own recovery process. We don't know what that looks like for each individual because what recovery looks like is different from every survivor. And we're not a monolith. We weren't all trafficked the same way, in the same era, in the same, time, or the same type of traffickers. So we need to think about all those different variables, and we need to be able to execute a plan in a more trauma-informed way. And also, we want to focus on healing. We want to focus on the survivor's needs. We want them to know that their experience is valid. We see them. We want them to know that they have been seen. We want to make sure that they have safety and support. And again, validation. We don't want to re-traumatize in any way. We want to try to make it as seamless as we possibly can. It's easier said than done, I'm sure. And then we also want traffickers we want to confront the accountability that needs to be had. We don't just want to put them in jail with no conversation, with nothing that's thought-provoking or insight of what has gone on with the survivor. They're just, once they go in jail, they're trying to survive in jail, and that doesn't really do much or when they are released. And they haven't thought about the consequences. They're just, honestly, they're thinking about surviving in jail, or their time being up, which really doesn't do anything for them, and it doesn't do anything for the survivor either. But also with that, we want to make sure that we integrate community-based organizations to supply housing and therapy and education and job training and financial literacy for the survivor. We want the survivor to thrive. And so, we are trying to throw everything at the wall, basically, okay, to make it stick so survivors can get, somewhat of the justice that they deserve, as well as assistance and resources in order for them to be a thriver as just a survivor.
Thank you so much for that wonderful insight. Karina, you have some statistical information to share with us?
Thank you, Helen. The DOJ survey says that in 2018, a study found that 75% of survivors of sex and labor trafficking preferred alternatives to incarceration and wanted resources focused on prevention efforts. 90% of victims of violent crimes chose the restorative justice model when offered the choice. PTSD levels decrease in victims after participating in the restorative justice process, whereas in criminal cases tend to increase PTSD. Thank you.
Welcome. And so to get a better understanding of what this restorative justice pilot program would look like, we're going to hear a few of those key components, hear about a few of those key components from Paloma Bustos.
Thank you, Helen. So yes, one of the things that the Sunita Jain Anti-Trafficking Initiative has been working on is on a restorative justice pilot program specifically for human trafficking survivors. And we developed this program with feedback from lived expert people that have lived experience, including Helen, Raven, Karina, and Tika, who actually participated in our restorative justice conference and provided feedback into our restorative justice pilot program. And what we're asking for through this program is we're asking the county for $25 million to be distributed over 5 years at $5 million per year to be invested in this program. And this program will operate at a pre-filing stage. That means that after the arrest has happened, after a trafficker has been arrested, and before the charges are filed, the survivor will be given a choice, whether they want to proceed with the traditional criminal justice system or if they want to opt into a restorative justice process. If the survivor chooses to go through a restorative justice approach, then that case would be referred to a community-based organization that would provide the survivor with wraparound services. So these are some of the things that Tika was describing, right? In terms of like survivors receiving therapy, access to housing, perhaps access to other financial assistance that they can receive after they have experienced a crime. At the same time, the community-based organization would help to facilitate the process that holds the trafficker accountable. And most importantly, in this process, the survivor would have a choice in shaping what accountability will look like for the person who caused the harm. So that means like whether the trafficker, the person who caused the harm, would receive therapy, perhaps be enrolled in a substance abuse treatment program or other type of rehabilitative services that they could be receiving as part of this approach. This program would not move forward unless there's consent from the survivor to participate and choose this as an approach that they want to utilize as part of their healing process. The pilot program, as Tika mentioned, is really tailored and meant to give the survivor power back and creating a real option for healing and accountability that doesn't rely solely on punishment through the carceral approach. And if let's say, if the trafficker, the person who caused the harm, is not participating in the restorative justice approach, perhaps they're not completing the programs that they're being asked to complete or asked to participate in, then what would happen at that point? The person who caused the harm would then be rerouted back to the criminal justice system. And hopefully that gives you an idea of what we have been working with. Again, this has been done with feedback directly from lived experience experts.
Thank you. And that was a wonderful convening that we had with, I believe, over 15 survivor leaders, all from different areas in Southern California. So the restorative justice model can support a survivor's recovery from the crime while also facilitating that rehabilitation of the offender. And this helps to remove the burden from taxpayers who currently bear the cost of incarcerating offenders. Recent studies have shown that it's approximately $100,000 per year to incarcerate someone in California, and that doesn't include the cost of prosecution. It's also shown that the average age of the person being arrested is 21 with a minimum sentence of 10 years. So just this is from an evaluation of different human trafficking task forces. So what this means is that we're spending around $1 million over the course of a decade just to keep that one person incarcerated. And meanwhile, survivors don't receive the money or the support that they need over those 10 years. There might be some initial interventions, there might be some initial intake that they have, as Tika and Karina were mentioning, and the work that they do with task forces. However, it does not span much longer than that initial assistance. So, um, in my personal experience, when I exited exploitation, the most difficult hurdle for me to overcome was financial. And at that time, there was no support for survivors. So while we have come a long way in instituting different interventions for those who have been exploited, they're still not quite meeting the mark. And under the restorative justice model, the way that the money would be allocated would be approximately 44,000 for supportive services for the survivor. And about half that, 22,000, would go for programming aimed at rehabilitating the offenders. And so this is a one-time this is a pilot program request that we're instituting for the County of Los Angeles budget, which if you're wondering how restorative justice works, this was specifically modeled after very successful sexual assault and domestic violence programs, which have shown that restorative justice reduces the rates of anxiety, PTSD, and promotes healing by giving survivors a voice and ensuring that the perpetrators are held accountable and provided with services. Um, it has also been shown in cases where they've already instituted restorative justice that there's a decrease in the likelihood of recidivism among offenders. And specifically for violent felonies, only 6% recidivism for those who had done pre-filing restorative justice. So while there is not a pilot specifically for human trafficking offenders, we have seen that restorative justice programs like this have worked in other areas. So we'd like to talk a little bit about what a less formal type of change and accountability is possible. So we'd like to hear from Raven about her personal experience.
Hello, hi, my name is Raven. I want to elaborate more on why I stand for restorative justice. And for restorative justice is offer opportunities for both parties to change their behaviors and attitudes, helping them understand the harm caused. And I chose this because a little bit after I was trafficked, I met with my trafficker and we did have a conversation. It was very rewarding for me. And I was able to like get through when we were sitting down talking. He shared his childhood struggles, his childhood trauma, and ours kind of related. A little bit after that, I went on to do great things. He went on to do great things. And I think had this program been in effect, this would have helped him in the long run. It would have been supportive. A lot of times people lack support in communities, and this is something that we needed. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for sharing, Raven. And had there been a more formal form of restorative justice, I think that would have been beneficial in your case, definitely. Back to talking about my personal perspective, I was with what most referred to as a career criminal or career trafficker. And in my situation, this is not a program that I would have presented or would have chosen had that been offered to me at the time. However, had this perhaps been a program that was offered earlier in the career of my exploiter, then it would have hopefully worked, and then he wouldn't have gone on to exploit hundreds of women over his career of exploitation. So this is really why I support a restorative justice model, to give the opportunity to those who are first-time offenders or just starting this exploitation, to give them the opportunity to change for themselves, and also change so that there is not continuous harm over a lifetime of exploiting people. Karina, would you like to give us your perspective on restorative justice?
Yes, thank you. I know my perspective is different. It's really important to me. I believe that everybody deserves another chance if they would like to turn their lives around. My situation is different just because my husband was my last exploiter. And if this would have been an option for him, our lives would be completely different. Because throughout this process, we both turned our lives around together. However, he has received no empowerment. He has gone from substances just because of his own childhood trauma that led him to exploit others. But if this would have been an option, our lives would have been different, and we wouldn't have been parenting out of our trauma. We have 2 kids, and I have witnessed the system fail him over and over. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina, for sharing your personal insight. And Tika, we'd like to hear from you now as well.
Yes, working as a service provider, and also working with law enforcement, I have come across lots of women that were survivors themselves, that were kind of pushed into the exploiter role, or they were used as a cover for the exploiter, to take the fall for their operation, the main exploiter's operation. And I have seen the effects of that when when those women are released from jail and trying to integrate back into society. It's very hard for them. And then, because, the whole human trafficking conversation it seems like it's been going on for a while, but it is still relatively new, and we're still getting a lot of information as we go forward. And we have seen that sometimes women are, used as workers, and as there's more people that come into the exploiter's life, they kind of rank up. And if you think about it, the thought process is, it would be better for me to manage, right, or supervise, than to have to work myself. And we haven't really looked at that, and we haven't really looked at the consequences, or the unintended consequences of some of the systems that we have put into play. So we're kind of using this restorative justice pilot to give an opportunity to those women to be seen as victims, right, themselves, that end up becoming exploiters, and give them the chance that they deserve to be accountable, and to have opportunities and resources that they wouldn't have gotten if they were considered as the perpetrator, right? So we're trying to look at these things in all areas. We're not trying to get the career criminal, as Helen says, a second opportunity, because I'm sure that they had opportunities already, and they didn't take them, right? And they considered, we're looking for the people that at that moment feel that that is the best route for them to go in order to survive, and not and let them see and understand what they're doing is harmful, and it can cause a lot of harm in the long term, not just for them, but for the people that they're victimizing as well.
Thank you. That is a unique perspective that a lot of law enforcement and prosecutors don't necessarily consider, is that those who are being trafficked sometimes are forced into criminalization themselves, forced criminalization themselves, and then eventually get prosecuted for those crimes that they were actually a victim of. Thank you for that perspective. So we'd like to hear now from Professor Richard about this, more about this proposal.
Yeah, so I'm just going to conclude us by really asking you whether you're our law enforcement partners, our service provider, our lived experts, to join us in this request for a $25 million budget proposal, which will be the first of its kind, not just in California, but nationally and actually globally. And I'm calling on you to join us in this approach because I know, based on each of your professional experiences working with survivors of human trafficking, that you care a lot and care deeply about this issue, but you also know in your heart and based on your expertise and experience that the system right now isn't working and we need to try something new. And again, this is a new and innovative proposal, and we will have questions that we will work out in partnership with everyone. And the proposal is designed to have a full year of implementation and then 4 years of programmatic support focused on evaluation and evidence-based data. And for those of you whose initial response was, of course, we could never not put a trafficker in jail, I ask you to listen to the lived experts and survivor voices on this call, but also know that it echoes the voices of the 17 survivors we met with in LA County over 2 days, and the limited evidence-based data that says that survivor leaders would choose an alternative to punishment. And again, like what Tika, Helen, Raven, Karina said, the real person in charge will be the survivor, who is the best person to assess if their trafficker will benefit from supportive programs, and if they want to go through this program. This is a unique model that takes an alternative to our criminal system. So if you want to join us in this work, please go to the Sunita Jain Anti-Trafficking website. You can just Google us. And there is a sign-on letter that you can sign on in support of our initiative. Also, we have signups for a working group. And so we might have calls of action to have you join us at the LA County Board of Supervisors and ongoing. Also, we ask you, if you're part of a coalition or law enforcement or other groups that need training and exposure to the issue of restorative justice, to reach out to us. And that information is also on our website. So in closing, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening and turn it over to Helen for final words. You're on mute, Helen.
That's about all that we have for today. And I just want to extend a thank you from all of us for taking the time to listen to survivor voices and consider alternatives, that the alternatives of restorative justice that we've brought to your attention today. Thank you.